I got my first Etsy sale. So welcome back to another crochet vlog. If we haven't met before, I am Di from Drift and Loop Crochet, and I am running my crochet business from our caravan as we travel around Australia. So please bear with me this week. I am sick. I do have a cold, a little bit of coughing, and yeah, I can hear that I'm just a little bit nasally and not 100% Di. So as you just saw, I got my first Etsy order, which I was so excited about. But the funny thing is, it's from an item that I've never actually discussed here on the channel. I haven't told you about it because it just hasn't fit in with what I've been doing, basically. And I very nearly deleted this item from my Etsy store on Tuesday. And luckily I didn't, because I got my order for it on Friday. So the item that I am talking about is actually my skull caps, which are so far removed from what we've been talking about with plushies, it's not funny. Hence now you understand why I've never actually talked about them. So these are my skull caps. I've got them in a range of colours. And they are quite literally, you know, they're basically like a beanie, but they're a skull cap. They're just a tight fitting, plain skull cap. These are actually my design and my pattern. So I did make these, I think it was back in January or February when we were up in Townsville. And they're actually a byproduct of another item that I was designing and making, which is another hat. And what I wanted was a hat that is like a one size fits everyone. I do want to be able to sell this other product that I have, and it just gets difficult when you need to be able to do different sizing for different size heads, basically. So if I can do them all as a one size fits all, which is exactly what these are, then it's happy days for me, and it's so much easier at my end as well. So I did do these up in Townsville, like I said, and I listed them on Etsy. They were my very first product that ever went up on Etsy. And listen to me, it makes it sound like I'm such a seasoned Etsy seller, producer, maker, whatever it is. My very first product. I think I've only got like 6 up on Etsy anyway. But yeah, so I put them up, and I didn't really have high hopes. I know that overseas skull caps are really trendy and people wear them. And what I had sort of been able to find was more like lacy, decorative style skull caps that were more aimed at females, basically. These are like a unisex skull cap. They're just like my mesh. They're just a mesh. I'll actually hold that up. So, male or female skull cap, basically. And then earlier last week, how I was popping the plushies up onto my Etsy store for sale, I sort of saw the listing for the skull caps, and I was like, I should just delete those. And I really thought about deleting them. And then I went, nah, you know what? I'll let them sit there until the listing's due for renewal. And then I will make my mind up as to whether I'm going to keep them or whether I'm going to take them off my Etsy store. So pretty lucky that that was the thought process that I had, because 3 days later I sold 2. And they've gone across to Western Australia, which is really exciting. So the order came through, and then I was like, oh, cool. I've got, one was in the sage green, which is this color, and it comes up, pretty yucky on camera, but it's actually a beautiful sage, desert sage color. It's a gorgeous color. It's my favorite. So one was in this color, and then one was in the crown blue, which is like a dark navy blue. And I didn't have any made up in this, so I thought, I'll just make that one up in the blue. And I've already got an existing green one, and I'm good to go. That's an easy order for my first order. So I picked up my hook, and then I went, where's my pattern? and scrambled through. I found what I thought was my pattern. And then when I started checking it against like my existing hats, I was like, well, that's not right because it hasn't got enough stitches in it. So between reverse engineering of existing hats and looking at what I had written down in my pattern, I came up with what I thought was my pattern. And that's actually what this first hat is. And I knew as soon as I got about 3 rounds into this hat, I knew that it wasn't the correct pattern. The sizing just wasn't correct, and not only in terms of the circumference diameter sizing, my tension has really changed since January or February. My tension's a lot tighter now than what it was back then. So you might be able to see the difference if I hold these up. No, it's not really going to show it. Yeah, you can. You can see how much bigger the mesh is in this one as opposed to this one. So this is a hat from January, February. This is my hat from Friday night. So then I was like, well, that's not good. I will change my hook size. So these were made using a 5mm hook. And all of these were 5mm. But like I said, they were back in January or February. So I went up to a 5.5mm hook, and that was a lot better. I think, yeah, this one is a 5.5mm. I don't know if you can see the difference, probably not, but there is a difference between them. My stitches were a lot higher and the hat just had a lot more give in it and a lot more stretch. And so I put it on my head. I thought I'll put it on, just see how it feels. And as soon as I put it on, I knew it didn't feel right. It actually felt a lot tighter than my original hat. And even when I overlaid them, when I sat them on top, they actually looked like they matched. They looked really, really good. So I was starting to go, oh my God, I don't know how to make my skull cap anymore. I didn't document my pattern properly. So I went back to my pattern and I started reading again, and it turns out that I did document my pattern properly. It turns out that I didn't read it properly. And what I was doing on this hat was actually missing a chain stitch in between all my double crochets, and that chain stitch is what is really important because that is what actually gives the stretch and the give to the hat to make it a one size fits all. So I think by that time I was on to about my 4th iteration trying to get this hat right. And as soon as I put that chain stitch in everywhere that it was meant to go, it's really, really good. Like, it basically matches exactly what I had back in January. It still does feel a little bit different, but what I'm putting that down to is actually the yarn. Because I remember back in January and February when I was making these, and this is just using the keepsake cotton from Spotlight. And I remember when I was using it, the yarn was like really loosely spun, and it kept splitting on me, and rather than staying, as like a piece of yarn should be, it was becoming very flat and sort of flattening out and thickening up when I would crochet it. We've got 2 very different yarns, even though they're both keepsake cotton, because of the batch differences. And also with these yarns, I had ordered them online, so they haven't been in a shop. Sorry guys, just had a coughing fit. Sorry, just looking at my hair as well. Just had a coughing fit, and I was getting cold sitting out here, so I've gone for a jacket. I'm just looking at my hair. Wicco and I were laughing about my hair, because obviously it's pretty wild and pretty woolly. When we've been up north, I always have my hair really short, like a number 2 short, a bit longer at the front. But down here in Victoria, with it being winter and cold, I'm letting my hair just grow out, and it's pretty feral. I've got very thick hair and I've got a lot of curls. So yeah, it's out there. Anyway, should be right. I'm not cutting it. So yeah, as I was saying, this yarn has never actually been in a shop, and I noticed the difference with the skeins and just how tight they were unhandled, and yeah, just crocheted up really, really differently. So anyway, what I ended up doing is making 2 complete new hats for the customer, because I wanted to make sure that both hats looked the same and felt the same when you put them on. So that process took a lot longer than what it should have, because I found, obviously a lot of issues with not documenting stuff properly. Then my next issue was actually with my packaging, because this is my first Etsy order, so I've never packaged anything before. So I had to figure that out on the fly as well. And I just decided that I just wrapped them in some tissue paper. I went to Spotlight and got that. There wasn't a lot to choose from, so I just went with like the craft paper brown, which is the aesthetic that I'm using at my markets anyway. And I knew that I also wanted to put a thank you card in there. But again, I didn't want to go down the line of getting stuff printed, because I know that with being the first time I've done something like this, my thank you card will probably change as I, sort of start doing more online orders and go through this process a bit more. So I decided that I would just print my thank you card out on one of the postage labels with my Munbin printer. And when I was in Spotlight, I just picked up actually I have got one here. I just picked up some scrapbooking card. So this was the pattern on the back. You probably won't be able to see it, but the front has actually got stripes in the same color. And I literally just stuck my thank you card onto the card, and I've just cut it out. So that's it there. I knew that I wanted to have space to be able to personalize it and write the customer's name. I can also just pop my name down the bottom as well. Just something a little bit more personal than dropping a plain card in. I also understand that, if the day comes that I'm turning out heaps and heaps of orders every day, handwriting isn't practical. But for the time being, while it is practical, that's just a nice little touch that I would like to add. So that was my Etsy order. So there was lots of learning that come out of that. One of the biggest learnings, and it's really funny because it actually ties back into what my last 2 vlogs I've been talking about and worrying about with my plushies, and that was, have I got the right products? Am I making the wrong things? And that was actually the thought process that was in my head on Tuesday when I looked at the skull cap, and I was like, doesn't really fit in with everything else that I have in my shop. I don't know that I really like my skull cap anymore. Mind you, after 2 sales, I love my skull cap. But there was all of that going through my head, and that was why I was thinking about removing the listing. And so I think one of the big lessons that's come out of this is I'm not going to like everything that I create. And just because I don't like it doesn't mean that other people won't like it. And, it's like what I said about the plushies. You can go down either path. You can either only stock and sell things that you like, or, you stock and sell things that the wider audience might like as well. And I think that's where the skull cap sits. It's not something that I would wear. It's not something that I really like. But other people out there do like it. Other people out there will buy it. Other people out there will wear it. So, that's the big lesson. Just because we don't like something or I don't like something doesn't mean other people won't like it. And yeah, that's one of the things that I'm taking away. And it also reminds me of, it was a few vlogs ago now, when I was making the keychains, and I had that little cow keychain. I thought it was so ugly. And I hated it, and I threw it in the bin. And then remember, Wicco got it out of the bin because he just thought it was so gorgeous, and I had to put a keychain on it for him. In hindsight, probably should have kept it, may have sold. Do I revisit it and make that keychain? I don't know. But yeah, just a bit of a lesson in everyone has different tastes, basically, and you just never know what will and what won't resonate with people. So the other thing that this whole process has taught me is the absolute importance of completely, fully documenting anything that you do with a pattern. Now, whether that be that you are designing it yourself, whether it be that you are following a pattern and you make changes as you are following that pattern, just make sure everything is documented, because if you ever need to come back and reproduce it, you don't want to do what I've just had to do and spend the best part of a night and a day getting back to what your original design is, what the customer has said yes to, and what they are expecting to get in their hands. So in light of that, I have actually fully written my pattern up. It is foolproof. Well, in my opinion, it's foolproof. And I've actually decided that that will be another pattern that I will publish and put that up on my Etsy store and put that into my website. And I will also create a free tutorial for it for here on YouTube. So, just another couple of things that have been added to my long, ever-growing list of stuff that needs to be done for the channel and for the business. And so it's actually quite funny. I've decided to not do any markets for a couple of weeks. I had tossed up about doing a market on the Sunday just gone at Gagari. But then when we saw the weather report, which was saying they'd upgraded the rain from 20 to 50 mil, we decided not to even bother going or applying for that market. And then I've got another 2 weekends where I don't have anything booked in. I do have the option to do some markets if I want. But then at the end of the month, I've got a market on the 29th, I've got a market on the 30th, and then I've got a market the following weekend. So the 29th is it's an all-day market. It runs from 9 o'clock till 5 o'clock, and then I turn around and I back it up with a market the next morning. So my thoughts are that I won't do anything before then. I'm just going to spend some time basically getting my stock up. But also, there's a lot of stuff, like what I just said. I have this long, ever-growing list of things that need to be done in the background for the business. And so I just think my time is better spent in this next couple of weeks trying to knock some of these things off my list. Patterns especially. Once you make them, once you've got the PDF up, you don't have to revisit it unless you're changing the pattern or you're doing something. It's a create once and basically forget about it. So I think as much as it's glamorous, let's say glamorous, going off to the markets and you get to make these awesome vlogs about them and all that kind of stuff, I think my time is better spent doing some of this work in the background that is, helps benefit the business in the long term as well. So that's sort of what my plan is for the next couple of weeks. And obviously I will be crocheting as well. So that is sort of where we're at for today. We've got to go into town and do some shopping. We haven't shopped for nearly 2 weeks, so the food cupboard's looking pretty bare. And then, I think I'll just come home and do some crocheting. And for the next couple of days, I'll probably just crochet away and get some stock up. I might do some new items as well that I haven't had in the shop before. And that's pretty much where it's at. So I will check in with you either later today or tomorrow once I've got some more stuff to show you. Hi guys, so it is Tuesday, and before I can get into crocheting or start doing anything like that, my first job for the day is to start organising our caravan so that we can actually move back into our home. So our caravan, we did leave it out over the weekend so that it got all the rain on it, so that we could see that the leaks that we had in there have been fixed, which that all appears to be great, which is fantastic. But I thought what I might do is, while it's sitting outside and it's nice and bright and we can see inside properly, and also while it's relatively clean in there, I might take you for a walk and show you around our home. So come with me. Okay, so that's our ute. But this is our caravan. So it is inside, I think it's around about 21, 22 foot. Outside from the drawbar down to the back, which we have the bike rack on the back, so that does hang out a little bit more. I think we're up around 24 foot in total length for the van. So on the outside, I'll just show you what we've got. We've got a brand new hot water service put in, which is that unit right there. That little door beside it is for the toilet cassette. That's where that comes. We've got all our water tanks where we can fill our water tanks up. And this little trap door here is for the front boot, and that tunnel boot goes right through to the other side. You can access it on either side of the caravan. So if we come around, actually you can see how wet and muddy it is. We actually had, I think it was around about 50 mil of rain over the weekend. And that's the other side. That door is into the other side of the tunnel boot at the front. So this is our caravan. We've got the awning there that comes out. That is, and this is actually one of the things that I sit in front of when I film. This here is a fold-out table. So let's go inside. So our caravan, you've just got to step there. Our caravan is a front layout. So what that means is when you step in, you've got your bed. Whoops. You've got your bed down here at the front of the van. So I'll just come back a bit. So you've got your door there. There's our little bed. All our cupboards are around it. There is also storage in under the bed as well. Up in the corner we have a TV. And you know what? I don't even know why we've got the thing, because we don't watch TV. If we want to watch something, we just watch it on our phones. So that is that end. If we turn around and we look from the other way, it takes us into our kitchen. So at floor level, plenty of cupboards. You can see I have my oven. This was a must-have. I love cooking. So I've got my oven. That is a grill. And then under here, this all lifts up. Oh my God, look how dusty this is. Hence why I've got to clean it. That's my hot plates. So unlike a lot of people, I actually do cook in our caravan. I cook in the caravan every night. Up the top, we have more storage. My microwave. I hardly ever use the microwave. It is handy, but yeah, I very rarely use microwaves. On the roof, we have our air conditioner. It's also a heater. We don't use it as a heater, but that's our aircon. Yeah, so if I get back at the door, our table, our seating. So that table, you'll be going, oh, that's really tiny. It folds out. So that's the table when it's folded out. It just has a leg down there. So obviously fold it out when you're using, and then put it away when you're not using, and it just gives you that bit more space. What else do we have? Oh, that's our control there for our diesel heater. So the diesel heater lives, I'll use my foot, under this seat here. We have one vent for the heater down there, and I'm trying to find, oh, there's another vent at the back. It's very, very economical. And then these little gadgets up here on the wall, these are for our water tanks to show us our level, how much water we've got. So you just press the button and it lets you know whether or not you need to fill your tanks up. So also got my fridge freezer. So, you know, it's a decent sized freezer. It is a decent sized fridge, obviously on the doors as well. And then we also use like an ARB fridge freezer for outside as well. And then we have this sliding door, takes us through into our bathroom. So, you know, it's compact, but it's usable. So that is the toilet down in there. Under here, I have the ever important washing machine. It's such a cute little machine. Oh, I've got washing in there. Wicca will be looking for those socks. You'll be wondering where they were. Anyway, and then we have on this side, if I pull back, if I can get it, that is our shower door. So this is all locked up from traveling. But we have it's a big shower. It is a really big shower. That's our vent at the top to let the steam out. Yeah, there's just lots of room in the shower. A lot of the showers are very tiny and you don't have a lot of room to be able to wash your hair or do something like that, just even move your arms around. But yeah, our shower's quite a large size. So that's our little caravan. This is what we have been living in for 2.5 years now. And God knows how many years we will continue to live in it. I know that we have no plans. Sorry, I'm just hopping out of the van. We have no plans to move back into a house anytime soon. So there we go. That is our home, and hope you enjoyed the little tour. Okay guys, so it's Wednesday afternoon, about 4:30, and I'm only just getting around to getting some crocheting done. I did do a little bit last night. That was late last night, and then today, I don't know what we've done. I've worked on podcasts, done a little bit out in the caravan as well. As you can see from the surrounds behind me, we are not in our caravan yet. That's actually going to happen tomorrow. It's just a matter of finding the time. It's a big upheaval. Basically, we've got to move all of our stuff back out of this van and then back into our caravan. So tomorrow is D-Day. So I need to get up in the morning. We have let a bug bomb off in the caravan this afternoon while we're not in there. And in the morning I'll just need to basically wipe everything down and clean the whole caravan, and then it will be right for us to move back into it. But in the meantime, I'm going to sit in here. I'm going to start making some little Highland cows, the little chunky cows. So I've got all my yarn. I just use the Zaddy Craft for the brown. That is called Cuddly. And then for my nose and for the hooves, I use the Spotlights valuable, what is it, Stash Velour. I'm trying to remember what colour it is, but I think it's biscuit or something like that. So I'm going to start crocheting for a little while. Hi guys, so it is Thursday the 13th of August, and I thought I'd just check in before I finish up for this week and just show you what I got made last night and this morning. So as you saw, I did start with the Highland cows, and I just made 2 of those. So two little guys. So this pattern is really, really easy. It works up really quick. It takes me anywhere from, I'd say, 20 to 30 minutes to make one of these guys. So while I was on the cow pattern, I also made some of the dairy cow style, which is basically the same pattern, but it's just using different colors. So I've made two of the black and whites, and then I made a brown and white, and then I've decided to go with some different colors. So we have a blue and white, I did a green and white, and I also did a pink and white. So I think I'll make a few more. I'm thinking I might do a purple, and maybe a yellow one, and maybe an orange one as well. So they were my cows. And then remember a few vlogs back where I made that fluffy kitten, and I said never again, like he was a one-off because that yarn was just horrendous to work with and it took so long for me to do it. Well, I have the return of the fluffy kitten. Check him out. How cool is he? So I have done a couple in this brown with the fluff on it. So, and I got a third one. So they do work up really, really quick. And then I couldn't resist because I do love a fluffy black cat. So what I've done this time with these is I've still used the, for these brown ones, it's the Value Ball Velour, Stash Velour, the brown and white one that I think it's a striped or something like that. But then I have put, or I've double stranded the Moda Vera Olivia yarn with it. So that's a fluffy yarn. So that is the yarn. And as you can see, it's quite thin and has a bit of fluff to it. So it's too thin to crochet up on its own for a cat. So if I double strand with another color, then it comes out quite good. So I'm really happy with these little fluffy guys, and they're just as quick to make as a normal cat. So I will definitely be making more fluffy kittens. And then finally, I have made some swirly snakes. The swirly snakes I still need to finish. I've just got the bodies done, and I have got the heads done. So I've made 4 of them. I've made 2 in the brown, and I've made 2 in the green. So the way these guys work is you actually crochet the length of the body. So you do it in rows back and forth. And then once you finish, you'll whip stitch down the whole length and actually close up that body. So there's no stuffing that goes into them. Once you get down to the tail end, you will just put a very short tail on it. It's only a couple of rounds for the tail. And then you just sew the head on as well. And that's the swirly snake. So that's where I'm at for the week. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Not too sure what's going on in the next week. Like I said, I haven't got a market this weekend. Who knows? Who knows what I could possibly get up to? And I think that's the thing I like most about my life, being on the road and just not living, you know, that normal 9 to 5, living in a house, going to work, being on that merry-go-round that, you know, I was on for quite a few years. I just have the freedom and the flexibility to pretty much do whatever I want, whenever I want. Thank you so much for watching, and if you've enjoyed your time with me, make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button, down below, and have a great week. Stay safe, and I will see you later. Bye.